Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on the journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write in multiple genres, including Christian dystopian fiction.
I'm Rhonda Hagerman, and I write both fiction and nonfiction.
And I am Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
All right, we start each episode with a segment we call What's Up? We check in with each other to find out how we're doing in our personal and professional lives. So let's start with you, Rhonda. What's up?
I have been waiting so long this morning to tell you guys that I am so excited.
We're doing Google Hangouts today because whatever with technology. So go ahead, Rhonda.
I was just going to say that yesterday I had, we had that little writing sprint that didn't really turn into a sprint. But anyway, when we had done with that, I had a major breakthrough on my pulp fictions, and I completely outlined 10 of those novels or novellas, whatever you want to call them. And wow. I am so excited. If we ever get done with this today, I am going to start writing immediately. I've been trying not to write as we're waiting. So I'm just really excited about that.
That is very exciting. Yeah, because you have a real knack for that. I love the voice in those pieces. I can't wait till our viewers get to see those. So awesome for you. What's going on with you, Tina?
Well, we have extra people in our house, and I haven't been feeling well, so there's not really much been up. I am feeling better now, though, so.
Well, it is about the personal stuff, too. I know we're all praying for you to be feeling better and to be kind of back to your old spiffy self there. And it is a stressor to have house guests. So, good for you for keeping optimistic and trusting God. So,
yeah, I think they're only here to the end of the week. So pray about that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Jen, how about you? What's up?
Well, I have been getting my 500 words in a day. So, and pretty much finished with the book cover, and I got the book 2 out to the editor, so things are moving along for me like that. And personally, things are good. My girls are doing great, husband's great. So it's sunny today here in Michigan, which is unusual lately, so I'm having a good day, other than technology.
Yes, technology is a foe today, I will tell you. We are settling into our new home in sunny Florida. We are sunny today here too, which we were cloudy yesterday, which was very odd. I think we've had 2 cloudy days since I moved here, and it was so weird. I'm really enjoying the new house. It's sweet. We were house guests for a month. And so I know kind of a little bit what you're dealing with there, Tina, from the other end. And so just real happy to be settled into a new house. And I have not allowed myself to slide with the writing. So I have been writing every day, which makes me super happy. Okay, so we are going to start talking about the topic of the day, which is writer beware. Things that you should be concerned about as you start your journey to publication. We're going to talk about before you've written something and after, because there are certain things that perils and pitfalls that you can fall into along the way. So who's going to talk first? What's our first topic here?
Well, I think first we need to talk about this, so that everyone's clear that everything we talk about today isn't like evil and terrible. We just want you to be really conscious of what you're spending your money on, because money is limited, especially when you're starting out as an author. Some people will fund their writing career through a job, but other people sometimes just have to kind of like just go with what money you have. And so we just got to make sure, you want to make sure as a writer that you don't fall into spending money that you don't need to spend. So I just want to make that clear, because there's some things that we're going to say, you probably should maybe not do, that you might decide on your own to do that. So, but there are also things we're going to tell you, just don't do it.
Well, we were talking just before a while before we actually figured out how to do this episode today, about maybe doing content writing to kind of support yourself while you're writing the novel. And Rhonda was saying that there's some things you should consider. So if you, like, for example, are going to write for somebody's blogs, they say, we need articles about X, Y, and Z. We'll pay you however much per word or per article. What are some perils and pitfalls there, Rhonda?
Well, of course, you don't want to pay anybody to get on a list for writing. There are plenty of contact content companies out there who you just sign up as a writer, you take a test to make sure that you can write, and then you write away. And there's different prices you'll earn depending on the quality of what they're looking for and all that. But really, content writing, it can get you through. Like, I started doing it when my children were young and I needed to pay for all their sports, which can be so expensive, everybody knows. And it did, but it was almost a full-time job when my kids were at school to earn enough. So really, if you're going to be writing blog posts anyway, why don't you just write them for your own site? And then spend the time that you would spend earning that little bit of money getting your own books published and making your own money for yourself.
Wow, that's a very good tip and trick, because I mean, I think Tina, for a while you were doing content writing and you did not find it valuable for yourself.
Right. Yeah, I figured it out one day, and between the research I had to do to write the articles, the outlining, and from start to finish, by the time I got done, I was making $3 an hour, and we were talking like 6 hours of work to write a 500 to 1,000 word article.
Mm-hmm.
So it just was not worth it to me to spend all that time writing for someone else when I could be writing for myself.
So this is a good example of what Jen was talking about. Now, maybe, your situation is where you think it's worth it, or you found a content writing thing that's great for you, but you just need to be aware that it may not be the big money maker that you think it is, something that can help you launch your career. So what about other things that happen or temptations that will come and lure a new writer along during the actual writing process?
Well, I think that what you'll find when you're writing it, you get super excited. I think that you think, oh, this is so great, I can't wait to share it. And then you get kind of ahead of yourself. I know that for me, because I'm a natural learner, I like to teach, I like to learn. So I would write, but then I would also get online and I would start to learn what I had to know about being a writer, what I had to know about the process of publishing. And then you find all kinds of things. And one of the things I found that distracted me were people telling me that you needed to get your platform in place before you publish, which I do not disagree with that advice, but don't do it too soon, because I made that mistake. And I have a Facebook group, and I had nothing to feed them after the first couple of weeks because my novel wasn't ready. So I feel like you need to make sure that you don't get ahead of yourself.
So basically, writer, beware of your own your own acts of potential sabotage for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty wise advice.
Tina, you were talking about that too. What were you saying about that before we started?
Yeah, I finished my first draft and sent it off to an editor. And then after it came back from the editor, I sent it off to beta readers. And so in my mind, it was going to come back from the beta readers. I was going to fix a few typos, and I was going to publish. But this was my first time, and I really didn't understand, no, the real work starts when you get it back from the editor and the beta readers. Mm-hmm. That's when, and that work is hard work compared to the first draft. And so I had to recalibrate my expectations. And for a while there, I was really discouraged.
Well, yeah, that does sound very discouraging, but I do want to just kind of give you a little kudos, because most people don't get across the finish line with the first draft. And I think that that's the biggest pitfall if we're talking about a writer beware, is just don't let something become a distraction from actually getting the writing done. Things I was telling the ladies, if you do a DBA as a writer, or you sign up with the as an LLC or anything, you put yourself publicly out there as a business entity, you're going to start getting stuff in the mail from people who want to, provide this service to you and provide that service to you. And you can get so distracted with, once I've written my book. Well, the day that you've actually written the book needs to come. And it's only going to come if you're actually doing the writing. So just don't get distracted.
Agreed. Absolutely agree.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what can come your way during the writing process, but how about when you have typed the end? Now you have written a novel. or a book or a story? And what perils and pitfalls should you watch out for at that point?
Well, even as you're writing it too, and afterwards, I think that one of the biggest problems, especially unfortunately for Christian writers, is that there are all kinds of scams in the form of vanity press. You see it in commercials on TV. Every time I log in to Facebook, it seems like there's an ad somewhere on my screen. Are you a Christian writer? And it's like they target Christians for some reason. Maybe it's because maybe it's because so many people wait till they're older to write. And so we have all these like kind-hearted little ladies that have a novel that they want to, publish and don't have any technology skills. And so they don't know how to do it. Maybe that's who they're targeting. I don't know.
I think it's a lot to do with the fact that when people write Christian work, a lot of times they feel like they're called by God or on a mission from God. And so when the nefarious person is looking for a mark, they're thinking that the person is going to be so eager to publish because they think, I've got to do this for the Lord, that they are going to just jump on an opportunity to get the word out because they feel like it's urgent that they, spread their message on behalf of the Lord. So I think they just kind of understand that you could be a little bit eager if you feel like God is calling you to get this message out there.
And I think, unfortunately, the people that do this also know the right verbiage, and they know the points to what to poke at to get somebody to think, yes, this is God's calling. I'm so glad God brought me to you. But ultimately, here's the difference. If you're going to self-publish, yes, it will cost you money. You will be paying for your book covers, or you'll be doing them yourselves. You will be paying to publish your book. There are things you are going to have to pay for if you are self-published. If there is a publishing house, I don't care what publishing house it is, and I don't care if they claim to be Christian or not, if they are going to charge you, if they want money from you, then you need to run. Like I said before in another podcast, run like the Krispy Kreme light is flashing. Because if they are going to have their hand in the kitty once your books start selling and they're going to start getting a profit, then there should be no money coming from you from the beginning. That would not be a publishing house. That would be a scam.
Right, because they should believe in your book's potential to sell enough that they're just willing to take a profit off of the sell of the book.
Yeah,
right,
and
exactly.
I think another reason that they target Christians is because there are less Christian publishing houses out there. And so by virtue of that fact, there are less people getting their books published by reputable publishing houses.
Now, it's not to say that all small publishing houses are bad. I want to make that very clear right now, because there are a lot of them out there, because like Tina said, there's not very many. There are a lot more nowadays, but the ones that we have grown up with and are familiar with, like Bethany House and Tyndale, they're all owned by larger companies like Penguin and Random House. And so even though they are still a Christian publishing, they are owned by a much larger conglomerate. So there's been all these other little publishing companies that have popped up, and I'm not saying that they're bad, but if they're trying to charge you, that's when I would go running.
Well, and speaking of charging for reading or writing, I write short stories, and when you're trying to find a home for your short story, you want it to be published, you want people to read it, there are a plethora of places where you can send your piece to be evaluated. So you want to watch out, however, if they're going to charge you a reading fee, because a lot of times the reading fee is really what is supporting that particular magazine or periodical. So in other words, they don't have enough subscribers or, ad revenue to sustain. They are sustaining based off of the reading fee. Now, this is a pretty controversial thing to say, but I'm coming from it from a point of view of where if I'm sending everybody $5 each to just read my piece to consider it to be published, I'm going to be negatively impacting my family's budget instead of bringing in money. Instead, I would rather polish my piece and send it to a periodical that might be a little harder to get into, and then they will pay me for the privilege of publishing my piece. So just be aware of any reading fees if you're going to be submitting your finished piece to a publication. And
It's
Jen,
kind of-
didn't you say something about like poetry books or something like
yeah,
that?
I was just going to say it kind of goes along the same route as the different poetry books. I can't tell you how many people come to me and say, I've been published in a poetry book. And I'm really sorry if you're one of these people, and please do not get your feelings hurt. But if your work is accepted into a book, but you have to purchase a copy of that book in order for them to put you in there, it's a scam, because they put thousands of people in one book, and then everybody has to buy a book, so that person has just made money. They're not really looking for quality poetry. They're looking for anybody who will buy the book. And it's a very sad thing when I see, especially little old ladies that, put their heart and soul into their poetry, and then feel like they have, really done something. But the only way that book is being promoted or put out there for sale is to the people that are in it. So
Like, how much money do they charge then for this book? Like, I'm very curious about that, because that's sad. And if it's a significant amount of money, the person could possibly have published their very own whole book full of short poems for the amount of money that you would pay to buy one book.
I don't think it's a significant amount. I think it's how they get under the radar for so long. But I do know that I had a student when I was still teaching, a high school student that was very excited. She came to me, and it was like $25. And but before I could even say anything, she's like, "But it's because you get hardback. It's not just a regular book. It's a well-bound hardback." So she had the hard sell. You know what I mean? They had like really sold her on this, and so. But you imagine, let's say that they only put out, only put 100 people in this book. They've just made $2,500 minus what it costs them to print this book, which we know is not the expensive part. So, and if they could do that on a regular basis with whoever they could find, and they're not having to create content, they're just going to put it all together and then sell it to people that are in it. I mean, they're making good money. These
yeah. So the bottom line is just always be aware if you're paying to have your piece read, if you're entering a contest, if you're entering, paying, you want to just be really careful before you send that check out. I've participated in writing contests, and I felt completely comfortable with the situation. I paid the fee. I was either excited about the opportunity to get my work critiqued, or whatever were my personal reasons, and that's fine. Like, nobody is saying, oh, it's wrong or bad. You just have to be very careful, first of all, that you're not blowing your budget, and second of all, that what you're getting is really what you think you're getting.
Agreed.
So what else, aside from pay to play sort of publishing, should we be worried about? We've written a book, now what?
I know. I think it's really hard for people too, because there are certain things you are going to have to pay for. Like,
yeah,
unless you're very, very blessed and has maybe someone in your family that is a professional editor and they're willing to do this for you. But there are things like editing that you have to pay for. So then there's always that, that thinking that you get what you pay for. So you don't want to go with a cheap editor, because then that might hurt you, or a cheap book designer, because then your book won't look good. But then, where do you find the balance? So you have to figure out like how you're going to find well-vetted, good artists and editors and copywriters and things like that. So, I mean, I don't want people to think that we're saying that you don't pay any money out. It's just like Tina, or like Jamie said, you have to be very conscious of what you do spend out.
I think the very biggest thing you can rely on is a peer endorsement. So if you are looking for something to do that will advance your writing career, even though you're not quite ready to publish, find either online or real life other writers, we've talked about this before, whose opinions you can trust. If you're, for example, on a Facebook group that has 3,000 authors on it, and you say, I'm looking for a cover designer, and people respond, I think that Susie Q is great, and you can go and look at their covers and see if you agree with that. So look for peer endorsements so that you know, just like any other service you would shop for. If you're going to get someone to mow your lawn, you're going to get an estimate. Just be really wise and careful. What about publicists, Jennifer? That's something you brought up before.
Well, before you move on, I also want to say that there are places out there too that you can also go and look. Like Reedsy, Reedsy, is a really great resource for authors. They any professional that they have listed on there, whether it's an editor, a book designer, anything, they vetted them. They have made sure that they are legit and they've gotten good reviews and making sure that they're not scammers. So yeah, okay. So I've heard, this is something else I've heard from other Christian authors and Christian writers, is that a publicist has, they were so excited because the publicist had read their work somewhere online or heard from somebody, and they want to work for them to help publicize their books. No author has publicists. Maybe Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, because they just have such a huge empire that they need, someone to do that job in particular. But you shouldn't be worried about publicity for your book, especially if it's not even written yet. So that I would say, if someone says that, I would probably back out. That's not a place that you should be spending your money.
Okay. So before we move on, we did talk a little bit about Reedsy. Do we have any other recommendations? Who can you trust out there in this world of, we don't want to make it sound like it's a super scary place, but you do have to be careful. So, Jen, you had another endorsement there.
Yeah, I always tell people that, like I had a woman that I met recently that wanted help with me to teach her how to self-publish, and I don't have that skill set, even though that's what I do. It's just too large a project, but I have found that the self-publishing formula from Mark Dawson and James Blatch is top notch. That is something that I did invest in, was their 101 course. And it's expensive, but it is for the price. The quality you get from it is well worth it. And they are constantly updating and constantly giving new material to it. So that is one thing I personally, I mean, I don't get money from them. I don't get any kickback from them at all. They don't even know me. But all I'm saying is that you can trust them. And if you are serious about self-publishing, great, it's a great course to take. And I would give my recommendation for that.
I second that recommendation. I spent the money too, and I feel like it was a great value for the price, even though it was kind of a high price.
Well, and you both mentioned that you had watched a free webinar that kind of, and so I'm transitioning there because we did not talk about the fact that you will see all over, come and watch my webinar about. And the topic will be something, very enticing. Make your characters pop off the page. I don't even know. And then at the end, it's like, but if you want to hear the real secret information, you will need to pay to have whatever other access or something. So what would you say about that? So now you ladies did invest in the self-publishing formula, but is that always the wise move? Yeah. Is that always the wise move to just buy whatever's at the end of the webinar?
No, I watched lots of webinars before I finally made the decision to invest in self-publishing formula. There are lots that I watch and I get things out of, but not enough for what they're charging for afterwards. So again, like we started this whole conversation out with, your funds are limited and you need to be very conscious of what you're spending your money on. So if you have watched a webinar, you've done some research, maybe they have a podcast like ours and you've watched a few of them and realize these guys know what they're talking about. You can give it a try. Self-publishing formula also had a 30-day money-back guarantee. So that was another thing that helped me to make the decision. So there are lots of things to consider. But I say watch as many webinars as you can, learn everything you can. But when it comes time to pull the wallet out, that's when I'd put the brakes on until you know.
Sure. And Jerry Jenkins, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, you do it. Go ahead.
Jerry Jenkins has a writers guild, and they do have I don't know if it's all the time, but I got in there on a 30-day free trial where you could try it out and you could look at all the stuff so that you could make an informed decision. So look for those kind of things. I didn't have the money, and so once my trial was over, I didn't actually pay for that. But there are places out there if they're confident enough in what they're offering you, they're going to give you a free trial or offer you like a 30-day money-back guarantee. That might be worth looking into.
And one final note that I would like to add is if they're promising you the world, it's probably the old snake oil pitch, because I sat through a webinar where they're like, we will teach you how to write a book that publishers will beg you to give to them. And I'm like thinking, but are you going to write the book for me? Because teaching me all these tips and tricks to making my book great is not writing the book, right? So, I mean, you cannot say to somebody, publishers are going to totally want to eat your book up if you don't even know if the person can assemble a sentence that makes sense. So be aware if they're promising you, fame and success and money, it's probably just a whole lot of people chasing a dream and someone profiting off of it. So just writer beware.
Also,
Anyone
you
else
made
that-
a comment earlier too, Jamie, that like if somebody is a successful author and then they're selling this this course, check to make sure they're a successful author. Like maybe they've only written one book, a fiction book, and now they've made all their money off of nonfiction books to authors saying, do what I did. And really their money is from selling themselves, not really the fact that they know what they're doing writing fiction.
Yeah, it's really interesting how, how much success do you need to have as an author before people start to hold you up as an expert? And if you kind of peel away the layers, is like Oz and the big head, and the guy behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
All right, awesome. Anything else before we transition here, guys? Anything else to add?
I just think it's good for us to like talk about a couple of things that may be good to spend money on, but you still need to be careful. Like, I do like going to conferences. Some are very expensive. I went to one that was not really worth it, and it wasn't very expensive. So like that's one of those gray areas. I think that you won't know until you try it. Rhonda and I are headed off to a conference together this weekend, and we'll be able to report back on that later. But that's one thing that like that you may get some writing help, you may get some ideas as an author, but I think that conferences maybe are more about meeting other people that share like interests as far as being Christian authors and like that. So
yes, because Jennifer was just saying how glad she was to know us because she has fallen in love with the characters from her feedback piece today and wants to tell everybody more about them. She feels like she loves them already, and she's like, I'm so glad I have you ladies to talk to because everybody else would think I was crazy.
So
you sometimes need some other peeps to round out your little posse there.
Another thing that I've spent money on, probably everybody's heard of the Masterclass website, where they don't just have writers on there. There's like all different subjects. And I did pay $99 for a Masterclass. Oh, I can't remember. It was a very famous, best-selling author. I can't remember his name. And I felt like I did get some value out of it, but not what I paid, not worth what I paid for. But maybe somebody that needed a little bit more, like was further.
Not as far along.
Not as far as long, or maybe needed some more rudimentary writing help kind of things.
Right. I took one of those classes too, and I agree. It was the James Patterson class. That's the one that I took.
That's the one I did, yeah.
Okay. And it was interesting, definitely, to find out how a famous author wrote, but none of his tips were useful to me. Maybe one or two that I can't think of right now, but.
His method of outlining was useful to me, but.
Yeah, and I think it's really good to be able to ask people who've actually been through the experience. Do you think I would get anything out of it? You've taken it. What did you think? Right? So, all right, that's really helpful. So without further ado, we're also excited because it is time for the feeding of the backs, which means we give each other feedback on raw pieces that we write just before we start recording. So a snafu happened. Like technology is against us today because not only did we have a hard time figuring out how we were going to do this episode, but we actually gave ourselves too much time to write by accident. We were supposed to only write for 15 minutes, but there was a timer issue. And so we got to write for almost 25 minutes. And finally, Tina says, I can't believe it hasn't been 15 minutes yet. And Jen is like, oh, it's the timer. And so anyway,
it wasn't the timer issue. Let's be honest. I set the wrong time.
Well, I was trying.
It was a Jen issue. Well, thank you for trying to not.
Yes. And so here we go. Feedback is a safe place here in this. We just only give positive because again, this stuff is raw. Like we haven't even edited it. And if you go and read the pieces, you'll see that there's still typos or just kind of whatever. And so Jen, why don't you go first? It can be your penalty for messing up the timer.
I will go first. All right. So Just to backtrack a bit, Jamie said that I was like all excited about these characters. But what I'd said to them is that I don't know if what I've written will really introduce you to the characters as much, but I feel like I already know them. So they're already in my head, and I'm just so excited about this story. So that's going to end up being more. So, our writing prompt today was the title for the story. Jamie came up with it, right, Jamie? Or you found it somewhere?
Nope, I just thought of it.
Okay. So the writing prompt was The Handmade Gift. So each of our stories has the same title, The Handmade Gift. So this is not a complete story like I like to do normally for these writing prompts, but I believe it is the beginning of something delicious. Okay. The Handmade Gift by Jennifer Carlton. Are you for real right now? Reed frowned. This isn't the reaction he had been expecting. Of course I'm serious. What's wrong with my suggestion? It's Christmas. Exactly. A time for giving. A time for giving presents. I'm not suggesting that we don't exchange gifts. I'm only suggesting that we make them by hand. That's not a present. That's a project. He rubbed his palm up and down his face. I thought you would like the idea. I thought you would think it was romantic. Well, I don't. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but this year it's handmade for everyone. You can choose to buy me a present, but I will be making yours by hand. A smile creeped across her face. This is a trick, isn't it? A trick? No, of course not. It is. I knew it. You're going to make me some sort of lame box, something ugly, but just big enough to put something small, but very special into. Reed shuddered at her insinuation. No, that's not my plan. Valerie's bottom lip stuck out. Then what are you making me? I haven't decided yet. Well, if you're making everyone presents, you'd better start thinking. That's a lot of craftiness you'll have to produce. She snatched her jacket off the back of the couch and stormed toward the door. She stopped short and turned back to him, a wicked smile playing on her lips. I wonder how angry your little personal assistant will be when she discovers that rather than a monetary bonus, she'll be receiving a Reed Reynolds original artwork. I'm not worried. Kelly won't be disappointed. The door she had just opened slammed shut behind her. Are you saying that you already know what you're making that little twit, but you haven't a clue what special present you are making for your fiancé? Fiancé? Reed's anger started to bubble. I've made no such declaration. What are you making her? It was none of her business, but he was loath to admit that she had guessed correctly. Yes, he already knew what he was making for Kelly for Christmas. She was the whole reason he came up with the handmade Christmas idea. He lied. I don't know what I'm making her. But you just said she wouldn't be disappointed. What did you mean by that? Reed tapped his pencil on his desk. Kelly isn't like you. She'll appreciate whatever I give her, even if it isn't bought at a jewelry store. Valerie sauntered back toward Reed and plopped herself in his lap. She wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him right below the ear. Don't be angry with me, darling. You just caught me by surprise. But you are right. I am nothing like sweet, innocent Kelly. She placed her hands on either side of his face and kissed him soundly. Several moments passed before she pulled back and looked him in the eyes. And there's nothing wrong for expecting more. She jumped from his lap and was out of his office before he had time to respond. Reed knew she wasn't only speaking of Christmas gifts. She had made it very clear that she wanted much more from Reed, things that couldn't be bought at a store. But he had been very clear with Valerie from the first date. He wasn't like most men. He'd grown up watching his father use one woman after another, discarding them like a normal person discards a solo cup at the end of a party. Reed wanted more than that, which is why he had remained celibate. It was hard enough to let a woman into his personal life, let alone into his bedroom. No, there was no more with any woman until Reed was certain that she was who he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. Reed looked at his watch. 9:15. Kelly was never late. He picked up his cell phone. Hello, Reed. He heard her cheerful voice at the other end. The end.
Valerie is out of there. Don't like her.
I love you, Rhonda.
It's so funny because you would think that that's negative feedback, but it's totally not.
Because I want you to hate her, right? Like you're not
You did a
supposed to
good
like
job.
Daddy, I want an Oompa Loompa.
And you don't even know Kelly yet, but we're cheering for Kelly, right? But
yeah.
we've never even met her yet.
She sounds great. Homemade gifts. Who wouldn't love her?
Right?
Yeah, but I want to know why she's so perky if she's late. Like, does she not realize she's late? So that's great. I'm excited to find out.
Happy-go-lucky.
No, I totally know why she's so, but that's what we do when we get off of here.
Really awesome. Really
Thanks.
awesome. Yeah,
you.
great job. I see why you love it. I like the name Reed Reynolds too. He
I
just
do
sounds
too.
handsome, doesn't he?
Doesn't he? I know, right? He
Mhm.
is. He's very handsome, but he's very modest about it. Very modest.
Obviously.
That's awesome.
Just
All
once, I
right.
want to read a romance about an ugly guy that gets the girl.
Oh
I
yeah.
am actually reading some romances right now, and if I could bring it up fast enough, I'll tell you the author's name. But she writes romances about men with disabilities. One is
cool.
blind. One had cancer and lost his leg. One has cystic fibrosis, and then the women aren't perfect. They, like how
Like
it's a
normal
contemporary.
women?
Right, they're like normal women, exactly, but I think they're a lot more self-deprecating than what, I think they're probably still beautiful. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the series. I've read one and a half of them, and I thought that it's pretty good. So, by Tammy Deeren, not Christian, but clean romance. And I'm enjoying them. So
Well, I just have to say, you guys, I really just appreciate you all and what we're doing here because just today I'm like, oh yeah, and all of my writing is making me feel very writerly in the midst of all of this moving and stuff. So thanks for just being there and being friends. It's great. Okay, so Tina, you are like next in like this little row of people's heads. You're the
Okay.
next row, the one in my row. So why don't you go next?
Okay, and I just have to say, I heard the title completely differently than what Jen heard. So
What did you hear?
I heard handmaid.
but MAID.
Yes.
Oh no.
Oh my.
You know, The Handmaid's Tale, like that's like in
Yes.
commercials
great.
all over the place. And I was watching Upstairs Downstairs last night. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a British TV show similar to Downton Abbey.
Mhm.
Oh
So
my.
you'll probably I kind of pilfered some things from them. So I guess this is fan fiction.
Awesome.
Okay.
Like it.
Here we go. The handmaid gift. Joe. I wish I had a British accent.
Want to hear
Joe.
mine?
No.
Okay, let me go. Joe, the footman from 176 Eaton Place, blushed as he tried to look away from the ladies' bloomers that were displayed next to the cashier stand. Christmas music played on a Victrola somewhere in the back, and several fine ladies waited on cushions, while shop girls rushed to find whatever they'd asked for. Madame Agnes's Emporium was just the kind of place Master would send someone to get a gift for her ladyship. And nothing was too good for his Sarah. The coins in his pocket jingled together. He'd been saving up for months so he could get Sarah the best Christmas gift possible. "Can I help you?" asked the woman behind the register. Her hair was brushed back severely into a tight bun, and her horn-rimmed glasses rest precariously on her beak-like nose as she peered at him over the top. "Yes, ma'am. I surely hope that you can. I'm looking for a gift, and I just aren't really sure what to get." "What type of girl?" Now the register lady had furrowed her brows in what Joe was sure was a judgment on the idea that a man of his ilk should buy a gift for any type of girl. "Well, she is young, 17 to be exact, and very beautiful." Joe couldn't hide the dreamy look in his eyes as he spoke. "Young and beautiful tells me nothing," the woman said in a snappish tone. "What is her station in life? Is she a lady? Is she in service? Is she a street girl?" She put the emphasis on the last choice, making it clear that this was the one she believed to be true. "She's in service, ma'am, at 165 Eaton Place. She is the most beautiful handmaid you ever saw." The woman sighed, shook her head, and pushed her glasses back up on her nose. "I dare say I've never seen a beautiful handmaid, but I suppose to a boy like yourself—" She let the statement hang unfinished. "What do you mean by that?" Joe was beginning to become irritated with the woman. He didn't mind so much she looked down on him, but to infer that his Sarah was anything short of wonderful, well, that was crossing the line. "I happen to be a footman, a very respectable profession in my way of thinking, and my Sarah will not be looked down upon if I have anything to say about it." "Well, I never," huffed the register lady. "If you cannot behave like a gentleman and not be rude to ladies, then I'm going to have to ask you to leave this shop." I won't spend my money here nohow, Joe retorted. And just so there is no confusion, you aren't nothing but an old hag working in the shops. You aren't no lady by any stretch. With that, Joe left the store, being sure the door banged satisfactorily behind him. Well, I'm sorry, Sarah, he said to no one in particular. I guess a fine lady's gift just aren't in the cards. Chocolates and flowers will have to do. Joe then straightened his tails, donned his hat, and headed to the section of town where those of his own class went to buy handmaids' gifts.
Yay!
I love it.
What a good guy.
Love it.
I thought that was great.
I did too.
Really, really good. I love the beak of a nose. I love the repeated glasses being shoved up on the face.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love it. And then I was like, it was so funny because I'm like, but wait a minute, he has to hand make the gift. Oh, wait, no. It's the handmade gift. Wonderful. I really enjoyed that, Tina. Good job.
Yes, good job.
All right. What do you say, Rhonda? You want to be next? I can go next. You want me to go next? What do
Sure.
you like? All right.
You're next
so
in
let
line on
me
my
see.
computer.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, but wait, maybe I can't go next. Where's my piece? Oh, here it is. Okay. Sorry. It got lost. Here we go. Can you guys see me now? Did I disappear?
No, you're
See
there.
you.
Okay, good. It's bummer though because I want to be able to see your all's faces. All right, so I'll just have to
We'll
read
just get really close to our little boxes.
it. See, because I have it in a different window.
Oh,
I know
I
it's
see.
like boogery. So hold on a
I
second.
really, really appreciate having my old laptop still because that's what I do all that stuff on, so I can still see you guys. So
Yes,
get
I'm
it.
going to put it in a new window because I am just a brat like Veronica or Vrook or whatever her name was in your story. And I, Valerie, and I have to be able to, yes, she's already real to me. So good job.
Yay.
Okay, so here we go. Yay! Now you guys are big and giant again on my screen. And I just have this little box with my document. So the handmade gift, although I did write it as one word, Tina, in your defense.
Handmade is one word, either way.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Good for me. Just whether or not there's an I in it. There is no I in handmade. Yes, there is. All right. Sorry, formatting. All right. Has anyone seen my glue gun? I was up to my elbow, digging in the sofa cushions. What would it be doing in there? Jerry asked. It wouldn't. I mean, I'm not looking for it in here, I replied, for some reason unable to articulate to him that what I was looking for was actually our son's athletic supporter. The idea that the athletic supporter would be a strange thing to find squished down into the abyss of the couch crevices thrust itself into the whirlwind of notions already swirling around in my mind like a half load of laundry in a triple capacity washer. Around and around the thought fragments went, tasks needing completion. Look up the exact time and location of Jerry Jr.'s soccer game. Call and reschedule Tina's dental appointment. Information that I needed to write down before it was forgotten. The 3 things I knew I needed to be added to the grocery list. The name of the neighbor who had just moved in next door and had come to our yard to retrieve her Yorkie, who seemed to have a particular fascination with our unfixed Bernese mountain dog. The back door flew open, and in ran Junior chasing the baby, who was clad only in a sagging cloth diaper and was covered head to toe in mud. Before I could say what on earth, the baby was clinging to the leg of my one pair of properly fitting jeans and wailing. What did you do to the baby? Jerry asked his son while prying off the toddler's death grip from me. He stood, holding the still screaming baby at arm's length and headed down the hallway with her. Junior followed behind, explaining how he had come across the baby in the mucky part of our yard as he was outside looking for his cup. There's no way he was looking for it out there, I yelled down the hallway. I bet you $5 he was kicking the ball around while I was in here turning the world upside down. You're welcome for saving your baby's life, Junior's voice returned to me. Don't be smart with your mother. I can barely hear Jerry's deep bass voice over the sound of the tub running. Where's the baby shampoo? You'll have to open a new one, I holler, examining the couch cushions in an effort to decide which was the better of the stained sides to leave exposed. It's under the sink. I heard the familiar creak of the vanity door open. Found my cup, Junior's voice informs me. Good. Next time you'll miss the game, I yell, though we both know I don't mean it. That's the problem with you, Maureen, I scold myself as I go to the kitchen for a cup of coffee. It is my mother's voice, the literal parenting expert with degrees and awards to prove it. You lack consistency. Children need consistency. Yeah, I mumble as I watch the black gold spill from the carafe into my cup. You say something? I turn to see Trina in the door, one hand holding her right earbud, presumably removed so she can hear me speaking to her. No. I mean, yes, I add quickly, before she has the chance to escape back into her world of whiny pop stars and out-of-tune instruments. Have you seen my glue gun? Yeah, she nods. Sorry, it's in my room. I'll get it. You better. No chance of me finding it in there. But she is unable to hear the jab, earbud already back in place and restoring the stereo connection to the pipeline of pop culture. At least I'll finally have my glue gun, I think. And I have coffee now. So I think it's going to be a pretty productive day after all. That's it.
Yay.
Oh, that's so good. I felt like I was right there in the living room among the chaos.
I love the mother's voice.
Mhm.
But I love that part. Like that was
Mhm.
really great.
Great.
I
Awesome.
want to know if that was inspired by any particular person.
It was inspired by, oh, no, not really. But it was, the whole thing was just
So you don't
inspired
have a
by,
camera in my house. Just kidding.
that's the problem with you, Maureen. Okay, anyway, like I had this bizarre moment at a Subway restaurant. It's kind of a long story. Maybe I'll talk about it in the postcast. But my brain literally just totally like fritzed out. It was so weird. And just the feeling of so much going on to where you just cannot function. I was just really trying to capture there. So that's what that's inspired by.
You did a great
I'm
job.
gonna read the rest of that novel.
Oh,
It's
good.
almost like an Irma Bombeck come to life, you know, without the humor. Just like instead of trying to make it funny, it just is funny on its own. And just, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Have you read Irma Bombeck?
I have, and I totally am so glad you said that. I wrote another piece that is kind of in this same voice, and I was kind of thinking of her, you know, and I would like for it to be kind of a vignettes of like her just being mediocre mom, right? Like, and so
Good.
yes, I do really
I
appreciate
will
that you
purchase an
caught
advanced copy of that, please.
that. Awesome, thanks. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Okay, what'd you come up with for a handmade gift, Rhonda?
Well, for my 20 minutes, I wrote 400 words.
Yay!
That is
Wow.
really good. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. I walk over to the box unceremoniously. I walk over to the box I unceremoniously dropped in the center of the living room. Standing over it, I force a long, exasperated sigh through my teeth. Just do it, I pride myself. I hunch over the bag, rip it open, and pull out a few limbs. Where are you, Base? I call into the box. The scratches my arms are enduring aren't making this more fun. I feel the top of the tree, pull it out, pinch between my two fingers. I let it dangle from my hand as I inspect it for a moment, then release my grasp and watch it fall to the floor. I grin. I didn't even bother removing the ornaments last year. After a few more dives into the box, I finally see the base. I grab it and the top and walk it over to the corner. I can't help but laugh hearing the ornaments drop one at a time to the floor. I decide to put it on the top of my 3-foot-high 1970s era speaker. Just enough room to slide my recliner in front of. Pitiful, I say to myself, and I try to arrange the few bulbs left. I walk over to the trail of red balls and kick them over to the tree. I grab a few and jam them into some random branches. Reaching back to place the last one, I gasp as I spy a tiny corner of blue on a back limb. Please let it. I reach for the corner and know it's what I hope for just by the feel of it. In my hand is a felt ornament my grandmother made for me just about 1 year ago now. Grasping it, clutching it to my chest, I sink to my knees and let the tears I've been holding back all day long flow. Now, honey, this one's just for you, she had told me. We'd been making ornaments as a gift for her Sunday school class that day. She held out a felt angel she had embroidered in my favorite colors, blue, purple, and chartreuse. I brought it home and put it right on the most prominent limb of the tree. I'd been looking for this little thing all year long. How careless of me to leave it on the tree. That's it. It's not done, but that's where I ended.
Oh.
Love it.
Did you like the tree? Jen?
I loved the tree. What inspired that, Rhonda?
It came to me. I don't know.
No, honestly, that's what I wrote down though. Like, is your description of pulling the tree out and the frustration and the scratches? I'm like, oh, that's me. It's totally me. So love that.
What I
Really
like
good.
is how she is chastising herself for just her natural, like, this is me. Like, I really care about this thing. Why didn't I take care of it? Like, because I am chronically guilty of that. I love that. Makes the person seem very real to me, I guess.
Good.
Great job. Okay, so now we have to visit the accountability corner. We're going to see if you've been naughty or nice. Anyway, just want to, Rhonda, since we just heard your story, how about we check in you? Have you been doing your writing? Have you been reaching your goals? And do you care to set some new ones?
Okay. I have been working on my goals and I have been writing. I probably should have saved what I said earlier for now, but okay. So we set my goals for getting 4 pulps done by January, so I could publish them by January. And I'm a little bit behind now because when I got my writing for the postcast, when I reread it, I was like, why? It just is horrible. At the time that I saved it, it was finished. And now that I reread it again 6 months or so later, it's not finished. In fact, that's what inspired me to do all those outlines last night, because I thought, I'm not a Politina and I'm just going to rewrite this whole pulp. And it's not going to, I think that I can still do that and then get the other 3 done in time also, because I'm going to use the same people and characters and situations, but I'm going to change it differently. And I think that's why I've had such a hard time with the ending of that one. It's been so unsatisfying for me because I just need to redo it. So I had a humongous breakthrough last night and I'm really excited about it.
Yay.
That's great. Awesome. So that's wonderful. So you're still on track to meet your publication deadline, you're pretty sure?
As of today.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go next because I have a publication deadline coming up. I had on October 13th, which is my birthday, I really wanted to release my book 2 of my Somerville series. Well, I don't think I'm going to actually be able to release it on October 13th, but for sure, I think it will be like ready to go because I finished my first read through edit and I was about to send it off to a very good family member person who was going to do an edit for me, except I realized that there was a character in the story whose name was kind of like to be figured out later. So I had to go in and make sure every mention of this person is corrected. So I'll have to do another pass through of the piece before I can send it. And just because it's the 9th right now, I'm sure I'm not going to be ready to publish on the 13th, but I'm very excited because it will probably be ready for publication by the 13th. I'll just have to put the cover together and the back matter. So I'm very excited because it's actually going to happen that the second book will be out. Hooray.
Yay.
So that makes me really happy.
Jamie, did you do this book in either Word or in Scrivener?
I have it in a drive right now, I think.
Okay.
Why?
Well, because if you copy and paste it into Word, you can do this through Scrivener, but
Okay.
then you can do a find, and it'll find every single reference to that, and then you can just go and like click on it and then edit it, so you don't have to read through the whole thing, and it can be done in just minutes.
Well, I call him different things. Like sometimes I call him that professor guy or 3 X's or like, I mean, I'm not consistently calling him, something. So yes, although I do appreciate that is very good advice. If you guys don't know about find and replace, it is a very good helper because, it's funny. I was reading a different piece where it was about Humphrey, but then I start calling him Henry halfway through. So yes, you can, that's a very useful feature. Good advice there. So what about you, Jen? Where are you at with your goal setting?
Well, I got the second book out to the editor.
Yay!
I did do that. I got the cover done.
Yay!
Except the wraparound, which will take me, honestly, I think just a half a day to do because I was trying to finish. I didn't realize that I had to have everything done, including the acknowledgments and the note from author and all that. So that's all finished. And Jamie said she would take a look at that for me to make sure that there's no mistakes in it. And then that'll be finished. And then I'm ready to rock and roll with that one. So
exciting.
Yeah, for get book 1 published and out, get book 2, start promoting it. So we're doing good. So I have really just I've reached pretty much all the goals that we set as far as like in this time period that I have to do, and I'm still chugging along on book 3. And I have, this is not the correct one, it's over there, but I have I've got my isolation booth already for book 4, and I am like so excited for what I figured out for that book that I can't wait to start writing it. So
That's very encouraging.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I am psyched about what's going on right now. So
Okay, Bambina, Tina, what's up with you? Have you been writing daily? Have you been meeting your goals?
I'm on the naughty list.
Oh.
What happened was I recently got diagnosed with diabetes, and I had a bunch of trouble getting a glucometer because insurance, I mean, it's just a big, long story that you don't want to hear. So I only have had a glucometer for maybe 2.5 weeks now. And I thought I was having hypoglycemic attacks. And then I was doing what I always did, because I'd been hypoglycemic for a long time, and eating, and then I would feel better. So of course I was right? No. I was having what's called false hypoglycemia. And so then I was having, my blood sugar was normal, and I was making it high, which was making me feel better. And so the only way to get over that is to just suffer through it. But the problem is, you know, it makes you kind of dizzy, and it makes you shaky, and my brain was fuzzy. So not only did I not write for the last couple of weeks, I really didn't get much of anything else accomplished in my life either. So I feel like I just was completely non-productive for the last 2 weeks. So my goal is just to get back into writing every day.
Well, you know, it's important that you keep yourself healthy, or you will be writing never more. So it's important to put first things first. So are you feeling like you're ready to get back on the horse? Like, can we hold you accountable to have written every day between now and, say, the next time that we podcast?
Yeah, that's my goal.
Great.
And then after that, we're going to go back to your other goals that you had set, and we're going to start pushing you on that once you do this week. We're going to give you this week just to get back into writing. But then we're on. I
got to get my brain glowing again.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did I skip anyone? I feel like no. Oh, I already talked about mine.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Okay, good. So we're done with the accountability corner. Now it's time to talk about you viewers sticking around to watch what's called the postcast. So the postcast is a time where we bring a piece of work that is not freshly written. It's not something we just wrote 20 minutes before we started recording. This is something we contribute. It's just like being a part of our writing group, like you're listening in, a fly on the wall, hearing what it's actually like to be a member of the Flaws writing group. And then you can learn how to give and receive critique. You can sign up for a free critique cheat sheet, so you can get an idea of how we do that by joining our Christian Indie Writers mailing list. And Jennifer also has some good resources on there too that she has provided for people who sign up. You want to tell us about them, Jen?
Yeah, we have the Romance Writers plot sheet. It's a 3-page printable that has explanation of each of the different plot points in a romance novel, the ones I use in a romance novel, and then it has a few places, like a few worksheets that you can fill in.
Great. All right. So if that's it, I believe it's time to sign off. So until next time, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.